This is a review of the Daily Fantasy Lineup Optimizer Daily Fantasy Cafe. We believe the optimizer to be the most advanced in DFS, and I'll show you why. First, select a sport. Second, select the site you're playing on. And third, select a slate. When you select a particular slate, only the players in that slate will appear in the player table below. When you export lineups created on DFC and upload to FanDuel or DraftKings, the lineup will be for the entry only in that same slate on FD or DK. Next, there are filters and advanced tabs, and if you click on them, it will display below, and if you click it again, it'll hide. You can filter out games or teams or players in this tab. So you can also do this by a team run total. You can filter people outside of a particular salary range. You can filter out all games by a particular time by clicking on that time, and you'll see them gray out, and then you'll see this exclude number update. You can filter out one game at a time by clicking a team icon. You can see the team totals and over under from Vegas down below each game as well. If you click on the advanced tab, you'll see the advanced options. The first one being exclude hitters versus pitchers. If you hover over this, it'll tell you exactly what it's about, but basically it's an option that you can turn on, and if you do so, the optimizer will not include any hitters versus your pitchers. You can turn on player exposure, which will activate this column. Now when it says 100% and there are no locks, this means that you're giving the optimizer the ability to include that player up to 100% of the time. But they may include that player 0% of the time. It's entirely up to the projection and the value of that player. If you were to lock a player, you'll see the exposure percentage go to 0. And this is because when you lock and use exposure, it becomes an absolute value. So if you added in 20% and you were creating 10 lineups, you're telling the optimizer AJ Ellis has to be in 20% of the lineups or 2 of these lineups, and it will honor that percentage. So exposure without a lock is a suggestion and a cap. Exposure with a lock is an absolute value. If you wanted to, you could apply a global player exposure to all players at once, and this would give you a more randomized set of generated lineups. If you're using the stack generator, which is one of my favorites, you're creating stacks in the stack generator, and you can pull those stacks in, you can save them, and then pull them into your lineup optimizer. So if I were to turn on save stacks, and then you can select a stack. Let me refresh because I updated. And once I refresh, you'll see the DK stack 1 is there that I just created in the stack generator, which is this AJ Ellis and Justin Turner. So the reason it added AJ Ellis and Justin Turner is because I had this player locked. So our tools work with each other. So if you lock a player on the lineup optimizer, it also locked him in the stack generator. It created a stack for me that I pulled into the lineup optimizer, and then you can set exposure on that stack. So if you only wanted that stack in, let's say, half of the lineups, you would just update it there, and then you could generate lineups, and that stack will be in your lineups. The Reset All button allows you to reset all your settings that you just updated. So if you were working, you excluded a bunch of people, you created stacks, and you just want to start over, click that Reset All. If you want to reset only your locks, exclude, or exposure or projections, you just click on that particular link. You can search for a player or a team or an abbreviation in this search box. So if I wanted to see all Atlanta players, I could just add ATL in there, sort by team, and you'll see all the ATL players. Going back to advanced real quick, I forgot to show you, you can upload your own projections and it will populate the entire tool with your projections. You can upload projections for a few players or for all of them. A few people have asked us to exclude all players so that they can add in their set of players. They may have 20 or so players that they want to create lineups for. You can do that by clicking this button. Just be careful with this because you want to give the optimizer enough players to create optimal lineups for you. If you limit it too much, it'll shoot you a message letting you know that the restrictions are too great and you have to ease up and maybe add some more players or decrease some locks. So let's generate some lineups. All of your lineups are fully optimal, and this is different than a lot of the optimizers out there. A lot of the optimizers will show one optimal lineup and then the rest will be approximate. every single one of our lineups is 100% optimized, which means that it's the most optimal lineup you could potentially have with our projections or whatever projections you have. This is a big difference between ourselves and other optimizers. Contests are usually decided by less than a point or 0.25 points. And if you're missing out on that, it can mean the difference between winning a ton of money and losing. So if you ever see a lineup that generates 100 lineups in, let's say, 2 seconds or 1 second, you know that they're not all optimal. They're going to be partly approximate or all approximate, which it just isn't as good. Okay, so let's look at this section. First thing is you have a group tab. So if you wanted to generate multiple lineups, let's say you wanted to make an update and generate a new set of lineups. Exposure's turned on, so I locked. And then I'm going to click generate lineup again, and it'll give me a new group, a new set of lineups. And you can see the slate here. You can name these tabs. Let's say you want to save this one, and this was your favorite. You can just type fave. You can delete tabs. You can save all the lineups. So if I click this save all, you'll see this save lineups number update, and all your lineups are now here for safekeeping and viewing at a later time. You could remove this entire tab of lineups if you wanted. You could download all of these lineups if you wanted to upload all of these lineups at once to FanDuel or DraftKings. You can do so there. You can save an individual lineup, or you can download an individual lineup to CSV. You can also look at the players used, which if you have multiple tabs up here, it'll give you the option to look at the players used in each tab. But this will tell you the exposure percentage, the exposure raw number of players used, and some other important information. So we are constantly developing new features and are committing to keeping the DFC Optimizer the most advanced in the industry. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and good luck.